I'm Robin, the chair of the Maui Nui Marine Resource Council. I thank all of you so much for coming tonight. I would say that we have a big draw, obviously. Dennis Marsters and John Smith. We don't normally have this many people. Yes, because you guys are being here. So I'm going to introduce Janice and John. Janice is under a contract from the county to do the stormwater management program update. She's actually under contract to do the stormwater, write the plan, right? And she's working closely with John. They've both been here before and twice before, and we really appreciate them coming back and giving us an update.
So thanks again for having us. So we've in the past given you kind of an overview of the county's stormwater management program. And the work that I've been helping the county with was prompted by them needing to have get a municipal stormwater program permit through Department of Health. And that happened after Kahului Paia, which is the regulated area, exceeded 50,000 persons in the 2010 census. And then that triggered the need for the permit, and so Department of Health required the county to get a permit. It covers the Kahului Paia urbanized area, although we'll talk about some of the ways that the county is also doing work outside of that area. Part of the requirements of the permit, in addition to the application, the permit application, is to prepare a program plan. So the program is fairly well prescribed by the EPA, and then each permittee has to describe how they are going to meet the permit requirements and what they are going to do. And other permittees include, on Maui, the Department of Transportation for the harbors, airport, and the port. The schools, the DOE is a permittee, the Maui College is a permittee. Now obviously each of those permittees have different roles and responsibilities just by the nature of their entity. But you can ask me a little bit about that. So there are 6 categories of actions that the EPA wants permittees to take, and I'm going to just describe what we're doing in each of those 6 things over the past, well, we were here, I think, last May, so it's been about a year, and these are some of the things that we've been doing. First of all, the county launched a stormwater webpage. It's on their county web system, and accessible or accessed in a number of ways that we'll talk about a little bit later. The website includes a reporting mechanism right on the front page. So if you're, if you see something related to stormwater that you want to report to somebody, illicit discharge or an issue with a storm drain or anything like that, this provides you an easy way to report that. In addition, we have sections on the website for residents, what residents can do. What persons can do to, in their own activities to protect stormwater. And some of the articles we've prepared and so forth. And we'll be adding, of course, more content to the pages as we develop it. That's the site.
It just went live in January.
Yeah, I have a question. You said you can report incidents of illicit discharge and all that. How does that differ from the ComConnect? This is
just a direct, it basically creates an email to either me or our director.
Okay.
So you get, because we know that if you go to the ComConnect, it's eventually going to get down to me.
That's what I was going to ask.
But this
Which way's
is
faster?
This is faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was what I wanted to know. Good.
And I think the best programs have a number of different ways, right? Because somebody might find ComConnect, somebody else might not use that. Mm-hmm. So you want to have as many avenues as possible to allow people to contact you.
This is just reporting to the specific area, Wailuku and
No,
Maui?
no, the county, if you look at the website, it is not, the website itself, the stormwater website itself does not, although it, it talks about the permit, but if you have a complaint anywhere regarding stormwater, you can call the county using this line, and that's what the website says. And in fact, we have had at least one incident reported outside the urbanized area, and we followed up with that.
Okay.
If you have complaints about something that's not stormwater, that, might be a sewage treatment plant you think is leaking or anything like that, would you use that same thing, or is that a different jurisdiction?
Well, you could use it, but
Say it wasn't raining and you
Yeah.
noticed that there was, water seeping
Yeah,
out.
if you saw that and somebody didn't know the difference between stormwater or sewage,
Yeah.
if it's sewage, it's going to go to DEM, but if it came through there, then we would funnel that to the
You'd send it to the right place.
Right.
Okay.
And of course, if it's sewage that could potentially find its way to the storm drainage system or the ocean, then
Yeah.
that's
There may-
a concern of our programs, right?
Yeah.
So, I'll talk about that a little bit later on some of the illicit discharge stuff. We've also been doing quite a bit of public education and outreach.
Is that one of the 6 steps? or-
Yes, it is. I'll name the 6 steps.
Well, I think they're part of your headings
Yeah, they are.
already. Yeah.
We've been doing some a Stormwater Matters web page for the High Street Journal, which is a county publication that's available on the county website. Also pretty well read by county folks. This one so the first one was a little information on littering, and the second one, we're working a lot with base yard folks and people who are actually out, Department of Public Works Highways guys who are out working storm drains, cleaning storm drains, working at the base yard, paving. We're doing a lot of educational work with them on how their operations can affect stormwater, and this is, and also just, making them realize that their everyday work can affect stormwater, and so it's a little Stormwater Heroes thing for one of the highways teams. We did some public outreach events this year. We worked with the county at the fair. Interesting, did not get a lot of friendly interaction with the public at the county fair. They were really interested in being at the fair to have fun. They didn't really want to talk about stormwater or learn anything about stormwater. so we probably won't go back there. We'll do something different.
You didn't show a picture of their house underwater.
Yeah. And Maui, one of the things we really increased in the last year was our interaction with Maui DOT, and so they did an outreach event at Maui Mall and did some storm drain stenciling around Maui Mall, so we worked with them on that. And the other thing that we've been doing more of, which seems to really net some we think more positive public education and outreach results, is going out to schools. So we've been, Rowena, the Deputy Director of DPW, has been going out to schools and talking with kids, and we've provided a bunch of stuff to the library, like puzzles that have a stormwater theme. She's been working with like coloring books and an activity book around stormwater, and then giving them stormwater hero badges. She said by the end they all know what a storm drain is and and that the storm drain goes to the ocean, and that you shouldn't dump stuff down the storm drain. So.
And they all want the stickers.
And they all want the stickers, and they all want to be clean water heroes. So that's that's probably been our most positive public outreach effort. We're coordinating with, so public involvement is the next category. It's kind of interesting that the EPA has 2 out of the 6 categories are public education and public involvement. So they recognize that for at least for small MS4s, it's pretty important to have your population aware of stormwater matters and how they can affect stormwater quality. So we've been coordinating with Maui Nui. They have a number of events throughout the year, and we've been working with them on how we can help them and also add more stormwater messaging to some of their events like beach cleanups and so forth. This is really new, so we're still coordinating with, John's been talking with the Maui Ocean Center folks who really want to do some storm drain stenciling. We've got that going with the stencil now that we're going to use, which is the one in the middle there, and so we're setting up the infrastructure for that, volunteer forms and waivers and all of those kinds of things we've gotten taken care of now. And we're looking at doing our first big storm drain stenciling event on June 8th, which is World Oceans Day. In Wailuku, we're going to be working with the Ocean Center and the DOT for that. So we'll be sending a lot of information out about that and hope to have some good participation. That's a Thursday, but we wanted to really highlight the link of storm drains to the ocean. So we thought World Ocean Day would be a good day to do that. So more information on that coming. The next category, broad category, is illicit discharge detection and elimination. And there are a lot of activities under this, including outfall surveys and illicit discharge surveys. Mapping your system so that you can tell if you see a discharge here where it's going to end up. And so in the last year, we're about 2/3 of the way through completion, or actually I'd say about 3/4 of the way through completion of mapping the storm drainage system in the Kahului, Wailuku, well basically from Wai'ehu to Paia. And right now, so we've done all the field work gathering that asset data, and we are looking at as-builts to make sure that we have the line, the line data correct, and working with DOT on some of the connection points where our system goes into theirs and their system goes into the counties, etc. And during the field mapping effort, we also did some illicit discharge surveys in the system. For example, there were a couple, an occurrence of dry weather flow that we worked with, and that was on a DOT highway. We worked with DOT. Talk a little bit more about that.
So, do you look at places like those big drainage canals and stuff to see if people can have a little pet going in?
Yeah, and so if we're surveying that area, we do look at those things.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first place I'd look.
Yeah.
It's like easy squeezing, going a lot of know.
We did, the other thing that we're looking at for illicit discharge is we are going to do a little pilot project in the Wailuku industrial area. And Liz, who's hiding in the back, is helping us with that, a little social marketing campaign. We really want to, we've been in there, looked around, mapped the system, obviously see some issues, right? Like there's, if you got streaking like this coming off your property into the storm drain down here, you gotta wonder what that is. Overflowing trash. So we're going to start out doing some surveying there to see what people's perceptions are. There are a lot of auto body shops in that area. We want to find out, do they even like make that connection that what's going down their driveway and out to the storm drain goes to the ocean? Because a lot of people think it's connected to the wastewater system and gets treated before it goes out. So, yeah, so we're going to be doing quite a bit of work in that area. And
Is there an option for them to change their behavior?
well, that's what we are going to work on, is developing a program, or a campaign, I should say, to get them to change their behaviors. So we're going to look at what behaviors are there that are damaging stormwater or resulting in runoff, or and then how do we change that? What we want to try and do is measure whether what we're doing actually causes a behavior change. So that's the benefit of a social marketing campaign, and we're trying to go beyond just showing up at the door with a pamphlet and hoping they get it.
Is there a penalty fee? Isn't there, if there are toxins going into the wastewater, into the drainage, is there a penalty? Is there a fine?
Yeah, so that's the other thing that we're working on, is illicit discharge ordinance. There are some, the county already has some ordinances that are, there's littering, there's, certain bits and pieces in certain places among the ordinances, but we're working on something that's much more pointed.
So there's nothing right now, if someone is an auto body shop and there's paint going down into the storm drainage system, is there some law for that now?
Well, like Janet said, there are a number of various things that would catch like a gross negligent type of thing, but it's not specifically that the county has an ordinance that says illicit discharge for stormwater and you get this fine. That doesn't exist. But
Okay, that's what
there are other ordinances that if something like that happens and we see it, then we tap into our littering ordinance or something like that.
Okay.
Or we can go to the Department of Health as well.
Yeah,
So,
that's the same.
How do they, how does like an auto body place, how do they change that behavior? I mean, what kinds of things would they do? I mean.
well, I think
Well,
is it
it's,
just-
so yeah, I think it'll
Is it
depend.
just using better practices and being more conscientious?
when we get to the section on B&Ps, I think
We'll
that'll
show
help
some
answer that
examples.
question. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think what we're going to have, and we're just starting into this campaign, but what we really want to try and understand what they perceive as acceptable, not acceptable behavior, and also what the barriers are for them to not have those kinds of
Right.
things happen.
Like one of my neighbors out in their pool put a pipe down leading to the drain to empty the pool.
You see that a lot.
See
Yeah,
that a
we
lot?
see that all the time.
Yeah.
I've seen people do it right to the ocean. The country club in
Okay.
Sprecklesville
I
had
hadn't seen that.
thing right
before.
up
I
to
was
the
like, whoa, what are you doing?
We saw when we were hiking.
So these are examples of some of the complaints that we followed up on this year. We identified, for example, when we were out mapping, that we had a possible illicit discharge from a commercial car wash facility, and that was actually identified to discharge to a drainage canal owned by A&B. But Maui DOT followed up with that. They contacted the Clean Water Branch. And
Oops, they were the ones that gave coupons because they were the green car wash at the beginning.
and then,
green.
yep. And then, so dry weather flow, those are the kinds of things that we look for when, there's no rain and there hasn't been rain in a long time, and you're walking by a storm drain and you see water or hear water or see water. Yeah, so we looked at, those are the kinds of things we referred, that was on a state DOT highway, we referred that to them. Another category of activities is under construction and post-construction runoff control. We've been working with DSA on developing more robust procedures for them. That's Development Services Administration. They do the plan reviews and the construction site inspections. So we've been helping them with a checklist so that they understand what, is more rigorous when they go out into the field, that what they're looking for. And also doing training for them. So last year we held a training session for plan reviewers and inspectors, and we held another one this year. We brought in a group from the mainland that does a training called Certified Inspector of Sediment and Erosions Control. It's a 2-day thing. It's quite rigorous, and county and DOT inspectors both came, as well as some of the engineering, Maui engineering staff. And then we invited local design engineers and construction contractors as well, so some of them were there. And we'll be doing another training in the fall of this year, really targeting local designers and construction contractors.
So is there a way to measure how well this works? Like, would it be number of complaints, or would it be, anything about water quality in certain areas that could be, used as a, an indicator of how we're doing?
As far as like when we're doing these kinds of education programs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great question. So the one of the differences between the small MS4 program and the large MS4 program is there's not water quality sampling required of the county, for example, if you're going to measure it that way. But there are things like complaints, incidences of erosion control incidences. We've talked about some of those at these meetings in the past. So that's.
What's the pathway to propose ordinance revisions? How does that happen, and how can people participate in that?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that later. It's one of the efforts that it's one of the things we've been working on, but did get set aside a little bit this year because of something that came up in the program, basically DOH's new permit proposal, which I'll talk about later. But we have been working on ordinance revisions, and the consultant team has put together proposed revisions. Now the county already has, both construction and post-construction ordinances, so it's tweaking some of those things to make them a little stronger.
Right.
They've gone to county has made some comments, so at this point we're in kind of a, trying to get them to the point where we want to send them out to groups like this. Mm-hmm. And we had talked to you folks earlier about having you look at them. And we still intend to do that.
Thank you.
So that's where that is.
So to clarify, it's on hold because the county itself is working on kind of coming up with some things, and then you guys will review what they have and
so we
send it around to other groups.
Yeah, so we put together some suggested ordinance revisions. County engineers came back with a bunch of questions, and how would this work, and how would we do the practical, the practicalities. And so we're just working through some of those things. John, do you want to comment on that?
That's pretty much where it is. When we have something that's ready to comment on, we'll be happy to pass it around, and we'll probably need support, to get it passed. So,
is there like kind of a window of time? Would it be like by the end of this year, by the beginning of next year? Anything you could say about that?
Well, we're going to talk about what else is going on with DOH, which has thrown a wrench into our timeline for the whole program. So I think we can talk about timelines, but there's nothing set at the moment for that particular ordinance.
But we are still working on it.
It's not dead or anything like that. It's just in a holding pattern at the moment.
Like that South Maui drainage plan.
not
10
like-
years, it better be good.
It's not like that.
Yeah, we hope it's not like that. I would like to see us make, have something ready to go out for people to look at by the end of the year. But there is a lot going on with DOH, and we don't know what's going to happen over the next few months, so I'll talk a little bit about that later. The final category is pollution prevention and good housekeeping, and this is basically working with the county workers to make sure that their own practices for maintaining their facilities and maintaining the roads and the parks and the water systems and are stormwater friendly. So we have been developing, that's not what I want to do. We've been developing standard operating procedures that include best management practices. So if you're out paving the road, this is what you should do. You should put some socks out by the drain, you should, whatever it may be, in a number of categories. So those will be available to county, and we'll be doing some training associated with that. And then we've developed site-specific best management practices plans for the base yards, and that is, the county's been working with their base yard staff to just educate them on common sense stormwater protections. And so, for example, this is Wailuku Base Yard, and they did a pretty good job, and they always had their aggregate materials and totes of asphalt emulsion stored in these concrete cells. And there's a big berm around here, so stuff isn't flowing this way out onto the street. But asphalt emulsion, for example, which is what's contained in this secondary containment now, is, could really, these containers are about 300 gallons. If there was a release here, there's a storm drain way over here somewhere. So we asked them to look at BMPs here. They started out with a spill kit here and a sock here, but then they got these secondary containment enclosures. So those are the kinds of measures that they're taking at the base yards to, they're doing a lot. We see a big improvement over the last couple of years, just talking with them about, cleaning up the base yards, getting rid of equipment that is laying around that they don't need anymore and things like that. But there could be it could provide a stormwater impact. And so we're doing, they're doing monthly inspections and very thorough inspections, and then daily walkthroughs of their base yard. We're doing more formal annual training and a third-party inspections where we come in and essentially do an audit of their base yard and make suggestions and recommendations to them. And that's been really well received, and Highways has taken that outside of.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We've just basically we said we're going to do it in Wailuku, we're going to do it in Molokai, we're going to do it in Makawao, we're going to do it in Hana. So, but we do it in Central, we're duplicating all over the county. So.
Yep. So some of the major tasks that we're doing this year, we've really stepped up our collaboration with HDOT Maui District. We're doing some, as I said, educational outreach programs, this storm drain stenciling project. We're going to be working with Maui Nui on a stream cleaning project, and really increase the outreach that we've been doing in schools and public libraries, because the students seem to like hearing about what we're doing, as opposed to the people at the county fair.
Maybe it's because they're at school rather than at the county.
Yeah, maybe.
Getting out of class.
We're looking at, I mentioned this, a social marketing pilot project in Wailuku. So that's we're just really launching into that. We had done some preliminary work and set up the survey. We are finalizing the storm drain system asset mapping. So once that's complete, it'll be part of both the county's asset management program that is, enables them to program work tasks like clean this storm drain, or this storm drain's blocked, or what have you. And it'll also be, the layer will be added to the county's GIS layer, so that just like your sewer system, you can then see the storm drain system.
What's a UA?
Oh, urbanized area, sorry.
One question.
Yeah.
Do any of the storm drains connect to the sewer?
No.
No.
Should.
The whole county?
Yeah, so our storm drainage system is, there are some places on the mainland where they have combined systems,
Right, I've been
Yeah.
on
But
it.
none in Hawaii?
but none in Hawaii.
I know.
We're continuing to do outfall surveys as we do other work here, as far as illicit discharge. We've been also, really working with the county staff who are out on the roads, all the time, out in the parks, out on the roads, to have them understand what illicit discharge looks like and how they can respond. So we've been coordinating with them on that. And then we're working with DSA. The county has requirements in their existing ordinance for post-construction BMPs, like big drainage basins, or permeable pavements, or parking strips, or rain gardens, or whatever it may be that's part of your development, that you're proposing as part of your development to meet the requirements for post-construction BMPs. That information is supposed to be provided to DSA along with a schedule of how you're going to maintain those. Well, one of the things that we're going to do is to look at that more closely. Are they being maintained? Include those systems within the county's storm drainage asset system. So we're working on that as well. Some of the challenges we've been having: funding, of course, always a problem. Funding for the program. It's a lot of the program, requires a lot of management. There are a lot of moving parts, and so that's a challenge. This year, the county is covered under a general permit for the MS4 program. And that expired in December, and in May of last year, the county issued their proposed new permit conditions for the general permit. That's right. Did I say the county?
Yeah.
Department of Health. Thank you. Issued proposed new permit conditions, and the permit conditions really that they wanted to impose for the small MS4 permittees were essentially the same as they require for large permittees. In Hawaii, our only large permittees are the City and County of Honolulu and the State Department of Transportation highways on Oahu. A lot of the additional requirements are things like tracking. Measuring how much material you're picking up when you're with your street sweeper and tracking that. And it's interesting because the City and County of Honolulu has been tracking that stuff for a long time under their program, which they probably spend about $10 million a year on. And their water quality data doesn't really show that there's an improvement, or, well, basically they don't show a difference in stormwater quality based on these things that they've done in their storm water program. EPA really set up the small MS4 program in recognition that small municipalities probably, may not have that much impact. And so, the county argued, as did many other small MS4 permittees on Oahu and on Maui, that a lot of the requirements just aren't applicable, or they're too onerous, or they don't make sense. That the county doesn't want to spend all this time tracking, just time and money tracking data that isn't going to really be used, in the urbanized area of Kahului, maybe we want to have more discretion, maybe the county wants to have more discretion to think about where the money could be better spent, maybe in the watershed, doing more watershed level work. So that's an ongoing, the county had, or the Department of Health had so much pushback that they basically extended the existing permit administratively. And they are now looking at doing what they're calling a two-part permit, where the existing permit conditions would be the base permit that everybody would be subject to, and then all the permittees would have to come in and say what additional conditions or permit measures they would put in place to meet the definition of maximum extent practicable. So there's still a lot up in the air with the permit right now, and but the county's and all the permittees' response to that situation, which was really handled not well by DOH. Nobody knew about it until the last minute, and permittees weren't informed, and it was not a good situation. So it took a lot of the county's resources to respond to that. So that's why some of the things that we had been working on got set aside a little bit.
But any idea why the Department of Health decided that this would be an approach, and where they hadn't before with its new personnel, or was there a prompting from some external force?
There was a recent court decision, an EPA rule called the remand rule that was handed down related to the definition of the MEP. But if you look across the mainland at entities that are regulating, whether it's water resource control boards or Department of Ecologies or whatever, that are regulating MS4 permittees, small MS4 permittees, they've handled it in a much different way. And so they didn't say, oh, we're going to make all of you small permittees meet the same requirements as the large permittees, and we'll call that the maximum extent practicable. Some of the conditions that they were requesting were in the latest round of the City and County of Honolulu's permit, for example, and the City and County of Honolulu has had their permit for 20 years. So they've had time to develop their program through all of those things and to try to, essentially their program has increased over time, but then the Department of Health was saying, well, now county, we want you to do all of this stuff right away. The timelines were bad. A lot of things had to be put in place in a year, 18 months. But yeah, it really is to address this, what is the maximum extent practicable rule, and but other entities have chosen to do that in a different way. So, we've made a lot of comments, and we'll see what happens when we go to negotiate the final permit conditions.
So negotiations are still kind of underway.
Yeah, they haven't even come out with they have not come out with with their proposal. They've essentially put everything on hold. They held a couple of meetings of the permittees. So that's still up in the air.
I just have to say, my experience of Honolulu is that a lot of the waters are not very fishable or swimmable. So, I mean, as much as they're doing, is there another way of looking at this?
Well, I think that's what the county is saying. They want the discretion to prioritize other things than measuring how many pounds of street sweeping debris you get out of Kahului. Maybe we'd like to put our money into watershed level, watershed partnerships and.
Curious if there is a management model nationwide or globally that is normally considered being a gold standard that could be perhaps emulated some of the best practices that they have in this instance?
Yeah, there are a lot of municipalities who've been in the program since since the phase 1 of the NPES program for municipalities. So, and we rely on, we mine a lot of stuff from all over the place, Los Angeles, Seattle, I mean, we're looking at stuff all the time to see what best practices are. When we did the ordinance reviews for the ordinance revisions, for example, we looked at half a dozen other municipalities to see what they had done relative to their ordinances for the permit program. So, and certainly things like BMPs evolve all the time. There are better BMPs for oil water separators and things like that. So we research those kinds of things as well.
Other questions? John, you going to speak as well?
No, I was going to let Jason.
Come on, John.
But yeah, I mean, we're in a, DOH kind of put us in a tough situation where we had to spend some of our resources trying to make this, what we felt was some really bad ideas come to light. And we're still in that process. So I guess the point is, we just want you guys to understand that we're not stopping anything. We're just trying to get a permit that's going to be the best bang for your buck. We only have limited resources. We know that, and we want to use them wisely to affect the things that we all care about. We don't want to throw money down the drain, literally. So that's really the bottom line. So we are. It sounds like, oh, why are you fighting DOH? Well, we're trying to do it because we feel like with input from groups like this, we have a lot better understanding of what makes sense on Maui. And just because you do it in Honolulu, or just because you do it, even just because the DOT does it, doesn't mean that we need to do it that way. So we're taking that approach, and we just, that's kind of the take-home message. So we're working hard. Janice is working very hard. And we appreciate your support.
Anyone have any other questions for Ray?
What are the other allied advocacy groups that are interested in pursuing these kind of best management practices and so forth?
The advocacy groups that just want to come alongside the county?
No. Well, assist well.
Like Maui Nui. So we've been working with Soil Water Conservation District quite a bit on Maui. And both, they help the county quite a bit on erosion control matters. And also we've been doing some outreach with them, and we've been talking with them more as well, and want to talk with them even further with the changes in ag here on Maui. We think they'll have quite a role.
So it depends on which part of the program you're talking about, really. If it's outreach, we're working with people like Maui Ocean Center, and we're starting to develop those relationships for, say, these stenciling programs that we're going to do. So that'll go a long way in there, and we already talked about tapping into things like the library, the state DOT. When we do that training, those training sessions, we do agreements with the college. We don't have to pay for the facility, and that helps their program. So they'll open up the classroom for us. So we are trying to take this collaborative approach as much as possible. Tap into groups like this. You guys are kind of unique, but there are others, and we've been talking with them, and we will continue to talk with them. We'll continue to develop those alliances in each part of the program, so we can just make it stronger and stronger as it moves forward.
And having been involved quite a bit with the County of Honolulu's program, I think it's quite unique on Maui because I have to say I've been to public hearings for the county for the City and County of Honolulu's program. Nobody shows up, not one member of the public, and they don't really partner with the other MS4s very much. So the county enjoys quite a bit of community collaboration.
Did you guys chat with Kihei community Association recently?
No.
Okay, because they had an evening on this topic, and I was just wondering if you were outreaching to the key
I think there was someone
There's
from.
a lot of runoff there.
Yeah, I think there was staff from DPW that, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, we do work with PA Community Association on, primarily on, it's been flood related matters, but.
Both.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
a pretty big association, and they're very interested in keeping the reef as clean as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, Marge?
Do you collect data on anything that's coming out of the outfalls, like trash and styrofoam pieces?
We have not collected data thus far. Just starting outfall inspections. Just got the system mapped, so I think, those types of, or that type of data will come as we develop a more robust inspection program.
I mean, when we started, we had thousands of plans in file cabinets, for the stormwater system. So we were pretty antiquated. We're now to the point where we can pull up online, look at, you saw a little snippet of it, the drain line. So I can pull that up now anywhere in Central, click on anything you see there, and a picture pops up of it, and we have some data on it. So that has been our focus first before we start actually doing the inspection. It's tough to schedule when you don't even know exactly where all your systems are.
Yeah, right.
That was a big job.
Huge job.
It's ongoing.
Baseline.
Yeah.
So the question that we always like to ask is, how can we help? How can we support your efforts? If you want to think of, you don't have to tell us right now, but we would like to know the answer to that and help you out if we can. Because this group is really concerned about water quality, and we know that it takes all of us working together.
Yeah,
So, if we can help, we're eager to do so.
we appreciate that.
We appreciate what you're doing. Any other questions? Okay, let's take just a couple minutes. First of all, thank you very much. Let's take just a couple of minutes. I want to bring Ray Chandler up, but if you want to grab something to eat and then sit down and we'll say 2 minutes, okay? So we can
I have to leave for another meeting.
I want to introduce you now to Ray Chandler. She's taken a position with Waterkeepers, an organization that I had not heard about before. She was asked to be the executive director of the new office in Hawaii. It's an international organization, and she's here to tell us about it.
Yay.
Thank you.
Mahalo, Robin. It's so nice to be here. It's so nice to see everybody in this room, and that the council is thriving so many years after Uncle Ed left us. And I'm so grateful to Robin for keeping really the vision and holding everyone together, and to each and every one of you who've made such a tremendous impact on this organization over the years. I mean, we have some pillars in the room like Dale and Lucianne and people that have been with us from the beginning. So I thank you for all that you've done. It is a great honor to be a part of Waterkeeper Alliance. I didn't see this in the future. I went to law school just with the want and desire to improve the things that I was seeing that were happening in the environment here in Maui Nui. I was the executive director of Malama Maui Nui, the organization that actually I hear is partnering on stormwater issues with the county now, which makes me so happy. But in that role, I saw some things that were happening to the environment that our volunteers weren't going to be able to do anything about. And that's the reason why I decided to go to law school. And in the course of going to law school, I was so fortunate to have a professor named Kapua Sproat, who's really a champion for the environment and on water issues. And I gravitated towards that and ended up being her assistant and working for her for 2 years. and they approached her, Waterkeeper Alliance approached her and wanted her to be involved in some capacity, and she's like, I have 5 jobs already, I can't do it, but I have somebody who I think you should talk to. And so that's when it started. Was I graduated from law school in the summer, and I first started talking to Waterkeeper Alliance at that time. And so they are a international nonprofit. They're the fastest growing nonprofit in the world focused on clean water issues. There are 300 waterkeepers around the world in now, I believe, 34 countries. And so the momentum is really spreading, I think, more than ever. We need clean water warriors. And I believe that Maui Nui Marine Resource Council is a clean water warrior. And so what I want to talk to you today about is what Waterkeeper Alliance is and what I think is the fit for us with them. And so there's a short video. We're going to keep all of this brief because I know we're encroaching on dinner time. So I'm going to show a video and then talk a little bit and answer some questions, and we'll go on from there. Here we go.
Art Mihailovich, affiliate coordinator, Waterkeeper Alliance. For over 15 years, Waterkeeper has demonstrated that it's an effective model for cultivating leaders in the environmental movement, and in those 15 years, we've learned a lot about who waterkeepers are and the model that works. And the affiliate program aims to lower the barriers that have existed in the past for people to become waterkeepers. We can be the vehicle from your passion for clean water to effective advocacy, effective communication, and effective results for your watershed in your community. You are already the leaders and the strong personality that it takes to do this job. We want to be there to the support system to help you do it better and do it more effectively. And Waterkeeper Alliance is in that position, and we are very excited to share that position and share that opportunity and help support you to be the best waterkeeper affiliate you can be. We have licensed waterkeeper organizations on most major waterways across the world, but the reality is we're not everywhere. And water issues and clean water issues and our fight for clean water exists in every corner of the world. Individuals or groups who have demonstrated that they are leaders or would like to become stronger leaders in their communities, and we now have a slew of offerings and benefits and support that we can help provide affiliates to really help them become those strong leaders that they demonstrate they can be. So the ideal candidate, smaller communities, rural communities here domestically, and certainly international programs in some of our developing nations where clean water issues are becoming ever more present and ever more challenging. Waterkeepers are on-the-ground leaders in their local communities protecting their local waterways. They are fighting for the right to clean water, this universal right that we hold that is oftentimes taken for granted or not fully understood. And they are the local voices, they are the experts in their communities on their watersheds who know the issues, who know the science, who know the problems, who know the right people to get things done. And more often than not, they're the ones who are getting it done. They are the courageous leaders in communities who will use science, who will use the law, who will use effective organizing and communication strategies to defend our right for clean water. It takes passion, it takes courage, and it takes understanding that what you're doing is bigger than you, and it's one of the most important things that you'll ever do in your life. And I've, for 4 years of being a waterkeeper, I'm amazed by how courageous and how passionate and how inspiring waterkeepers are. And they come from all different walks of life, but one thing that really ties all waterkeepers together is they won't back down, they won't take no for an answer, they will fight like hell for clean water, and they will do everything in their power to not only get results, but to get the community behind them. And if you're passionate about your community or your waterway or the future of the planet for your children or grandchildren, if you see that as what you want for the future, then you can be a waterkeeper. Climate change, as much as anything, is a water crisis. And because of that, there persists a need to really increase the reach and footprint of Waterkeeper Alliance and Waterkeeper affiliates and Waterkeeper programs around the world. And it is becoming an issue that waterkeepers are uniquely positioned to address in a very effective way. Waterkeepers are already on the front lines of climate change, and for us as an alliance and a network to bring in new Waterkeeper affiliates and Waterkeeper programs, we can provide support to those new programs and help connect them with people who are already dealing with climate change. Really, at the time, it was a dream job for me to be able to work on water resource issues and water protection issues on a river, the Spokane River, that I had really grown to love over a decade of living in Spokane. And my sort of history with water goes back to a young age, growing up in Montana, just really excited about water and fishing and rafting and always around water. And be able to take that out globally and help inspire others and help connect others to Waterkeeper Alliance and support their passions to become Waterkeeper affiliates. And being a part of a team at Waterkeeper Alliance that was working so hard to fight for clean water, and I'm excited to get out there and inspire others to become Waterkeeper affiliates.
I like that last graphic because it shows you Baykeeper, Coastkeeper, Riverkeeper. Waterkeeper Alliance is actually an affiliation of keepers organizations that started since the 60s in New York. Hudson River Keeper was the very first one. The Hudson River was just, nobody would stick their toe in it, in the 1960s. And it was a loss of a cultural icon, actually, a place that people had used for recreation and fishing, and certainly had been an important part of traditional subsistence, living for the Native people in that area for a really long time. So there's San Francisco Baykeeper, Santa Monica Coast Keeper, Columbia River Keeper. There's so many organizations. Really what the model is that they're the advocate for that water body. And so we're a little different in that we're islands. And none of our rivers are large enough to really have a nonprofit that's dedicated solely to Yao Stream, only. And so, or Wailuku River now. But what we're doing now in Hawaii is we're going to have island keepers, essentially. And the first one is Oahu Waterkeeper. And so I'm going to be the Oahu Waterkeeper Executive Director, and that organization is going to be getting started later this year. And I look forward to working on stormwater issues and tackling some of the things that we heard about earlier today. But Maui Nui Marine Resource Council is very special in that it is sort of a county keeper. And so it's a little different, and the proposal process is like you write about 15-page proposal about what the organization is, what type of issues you're going to tackle, and everything you just saw in the video is who we are. I mean, Maui Nui Marine Resource Council is really doing a lot of this water quality monitoring, a lot of this advocacy, and so I think we're a natural fit. Our water body is, our fresh water in the internal waters of Maui County, and that's how I would phrase it. But really what I wanted to do today was talk a little bit about what Waterkeeper Alliance is, and then some of the benefits of it. And I'm sorry Helen wasn't here. We'll talk about it at the board meeting, but she asked. So there is an annual conference. There's regional coordination, and I actually attended a Pacific Regional Conference recently, and a lot of our issues are very similar. I mean, we struggle sometimes on things that we think we're very alone on, and the reality is there's 30 other organizations across the United States at least that are doing something very similar to what we're doing, and so we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to talk to our friends and figure out what's the fastest way to get this issue tackled. And so like stormwater quality, I mean, that's, I think, one that's a low-hanging fruit, that a lot of issues that we have in our community are actually already being addressed by others. And so you're hooked into this network where then we can be in a dialogue, whether it's through the conference or through, like, there's this weekly feed of what's going on, what the waterkeepers are doing, and so you're able to get ideas from that. There's trainings that happen. Webinars are really great. We have probably like 30 webinars a quarter, and they are about, and it's completely up to you, it's totally voluntary, but social media, fundraising, individual issues like water quality monitoring programs, stormwater quality monitoring programs, that kind of thing, that we really just want to corral like all the people working on this issue and help them to move forward with it quickly. There's really organizational capacity. There's workshops that take place at the regional meetings, the annual meetings, and then individual things like that. But really, we're all fledgling organizations, just trying to find our place and making people aware of grant opportunities. Waterkeeper Alliance is fortunate to be very supported. I feel like Bobby Kennedy's on our board of directors. We have a lot of people who want to do good things that have connections and have connections to grants that are open nationally, and I think that we don't know about some of the opportunities to get money to fund the programs that we have here, and so that's what I really want to see us do for our group. And so what I wanted to do is to offer to the council the opportunity to become a waterkeeper if you would like. I found a sponsor for us. It is $150 a year, which I think is a bargain to be a part of something really that is such a win-win for us. And so I have a donor who will sponsor the first 3 years of the council's membership if the council wants to become a Waterkeeper affiliate. The difference between an affiliate and a member organization is that an affiliate exists already, like us. We're already a nonprofit. We're going to become a part of the family. A member organization is somebody who gets started as a keeper, like Oahu Waterkeeper. We are forming a nonprofit for the purpose of becoming a part of the Waterkeeper Alliance. But we are on the forefront of some of the biggest changes that we've ever seen in our planet's history and the administration of this nation. And Columbia Riverkeeper was the first to file a lawsuit against the federal government for the changes that came down from the EPA. And so Waterkeeper is really on the front line, and I think we want to be a part of that too. And we want to, our collective voices kind of be so much stronger, and we want to put those good ideas to action in our community. And so I certainly think that there's a lot to gain from our participation in this, and we'll talk more about it with the board. The board seems very excited about it, but of course I am totally excited about it, so I can't speak for anyone else. But I'm welcome any questions anyone has about the Alliance or our involvement. Yes?
Where do they get their funding?
They get their funding from mostly private donors and then corporate sponsors. So there are a number of corporate sponsors. I think there's, at the bottom of this, there's like Patagonia, Toyota. They're very careful about who they partner with, but mostly corporations that have environmental practices. Yes.
How big is your office?
Our office?
Your office.
My personal office?
No, I don't mean your physical office. How many people?
Okay, so the headquarters of Waterkeeper Alliance?
Or
Yeah,
on Oahu?
Oh, on Oahu. So we don't exist yet.
Oh.
Yeah. So basically, I just turned in a proposal. So the process is there's something called the Waterkeeper Support Committee, and they meet monthly, and then bi-monthly there's a committee above them that reviews the proposals. They're actually very careful about who they let into the Alliance. This isn't just anybody can become a Waterkeeper. They have standards. They have 13 quality standards in it, and you have to actually meet them every year in order to continue to be a Waterkeeper. And they're not that demanding. I mean, it's like you have some kind of paid staff person, you're advocating regularly for your water body, you're meeting some of these criteria, but the proposal process is the first step. And so it's a license, actually. It's a trademark, Waterkeeper. And so to become a Waterkeeper, Oahu Waterkeeper, I couldn't just go to our state and become a nonprofit on my own and call myself a Waterkeeper. And so there's that process that you go through. Our office, for the first year, we have a 3-year growth plan where we'll hire 1 employee a year for the next 3 years. So I'll be the first one. The second one will be an outreach and media person, and the third person will be a litigation director. And so I really want to mediate as many of these disputes as we can. But Waterkeeper Alliance office, their headquarters has about 15 to 20 people based there, and then they have organizations that range from 1 person in the office to, I think, Puget Soundkeeper has 9, and so San Francisco Baykeeper has like 8, so they're all different sizes. What I want to do is spend the first couple of years building community, and so I just actually met with the base commander of Kaneohe Marine Corps Base, and they're going to be the first oyster restoration project in what is the largest estuary in the Pacific, the Kaneohe Bay. And so we're gonna be putting oysters actually in all of their outflow areas of their like drainage on their base, and then also in their harbor area. It's going to be a combination of like floating rafts to treat water quality, and then some oysters that are submerged, and then oysters as a part of coastal shoreline like hardening, like not in the sense of the bad words that we use, like for what's going on with what's happening in Oluwalu, but really just to fight erosion. And so New York, New Jersey Baykeeper has actually partnered with a naval weapons station on the East Coast to do some erosion control, and had created something that they call a living shoreline. All throughout the East Coast, there's been oyster restoration ongoing for decades. Chesapeake Bay is probably the best example. They've already outplanted 6.5 billion oysters and completely, dramatically changed the water quality, the visibility, everything. And so oysters are incredible filters of water quality for everything from turbidity, stormwater, microplastics. I mean, they're just amazing. And so I want to, like in my vision for the future, there's going to be like stormwater oysters to the rescue, you know, like deploy the oysters, you know, and then they're going to go out on the rafts, and there's going to be a kuli. And so, I mean, I really think that we have to fight with things that make sense. You know, so much of our mitigation is stuff that really causes problems in the end, you know, and so there's natural systems that we live within, and I want to see Kaneohe Bay be an example for other communities throughout the islands to actually address a lot of the issues that we have with pollution with oysters.
Are oysters indigenous to Hawaii?
3 indigenous. So there's 3 species of indigenous oysters. The reason why we have Pearl Harbor is because there were pearls in Pearl Harbor up until the military dredged that area, and actually Oahu Waterkeeper hopes to be a part of restoring oysters to Pearl Harbor, which would be just incredible. But in the meantime, Kaneohe Bay is one of those ecological treasures that is still not so far gone that it's reversible. You know, the trends, I think a lot of, actually we're partnering with UH Hilo aquaculture program, and the person who runs that program has been saying, you know, for years she's been doing all this research, she's really trying to help support aquaculture in the nearshore waters, but the biggest barrier is clean water. You cannot have oysters and clams as an industry if you can't get them certified, if they're not clean enough to be able to use commercially. And so what I hope is that we can get communities engaged in restoring their water quality in this way. And then maybe it will, in the future, lay a foundation for clean water that commercial industries can pop up, but that's not our intent. Our intent is really just clean the water and do it in the best way possible. So our first project is oyster restoration, but it's going to be a lot of advocacy. I want to support our government in making good choices, and so tackling some of these issues is really important. I mean, anything from pesticides to marine debris, you know, it's all affecting us. Does anybody else have any questions?
Would you explain to them the difference in Hawaiian law about water quality than island law on water quality?
Yeah, so Hawaii is unique in that we have our traditional system of state, county, and municipal laws. But we also have common law that is modified by kingdom law. And so we can pull into our jurisprudence laws that were passed previous to Hawaii becoming even a territory. And so really what we have, it's HRS 1-1 and our constitutional provision, Article 12, Section 7, that basically guarantee that Hawaiian culture and tradition and religion will be supported and will be able to continue. And so things there's like an arbitrary date in the late 1800s that was set as what is custom in Hawaii. And so whatever was a traditional practice, the state has to do all that it can to allow that traditional practice to continue. And so notwithstanding, laws that in some cases the government can say, well, if there's a reasonable ability to regulate around a practice, like say there's a person in Kalalau Valley who was trying to restore the valley and through practices of malama aina and take care of this heiau, but because Kalalau Valley is a state park and the state park had a permit requirement, they said, well, a permit is a reasonable regulation, we need to know like what's going on with the people that are in the park. But had there not been a state park at issue, had it maybe been undeveloped private land, you could have leaned on Hawaiian cultural practice to say that actually this person has a right to be there. And so there is, with practices with regard to water, and actually this is one of the most powerful parts of Nawaiha's case, is that maybe if we leaned only on environmental laws, we couldn't necessarily have gotten some of the stream flow restoration that we did, but when you add the cultural component of without water there's no taro, it's so much more of a compelling case. And so leaning on cultural practices as much as possible, I think this is actually our future. Partnership between perpetuating cultural practices, I feel like there's so much more compelling, when people are saying, this is my river, it's fed my family for 9 generations or 90 generations, and our practices don't exist. Our culture is basically obliterated if this river is lost, and so I think that that's our future to the degree that we can lean on practices that rely on clean water, whether they're gathering in the nearshore areas. The state cannot take actions that are going to disrupt cultural practices unless there's, some way that you can say the state it's a reasonable regulation around that. But some of the greatest environmental law cases are cases where Molokai couldn't drill a new well for the ranch because to drill a new well would have affected the groundwater, which then would affect the output into the nearshore waters and the limu production and the fishing production. And because so much of Molokai's community is subsistence gatherers, you can't affect the nearshore area like that. And so it's not so much a law as it is a custom that you would be interrupting in order to accommodate this development. And so I think that's the direction that we want to go in the future. Yes?
So if Maui Nui Resource Council decides to take on this designation, what do you see as the baby steps of the liaison?
So basically, as you have a designated waterkeeper, which would be the full-time staff person. So it would be our Amy, and then they don't really do anything different than what they already do. And so really, you're already clean water advocates. We're doing the work of what a waterkeeper is. We're monitoring water quality. All the programs that Maui Nui Marine Resource Council already has are in direct alignment with Waterkeeper Alliance. You would have an annual report to turn in. It's very short. They don't want to burden the affiliates or the member organizations. And so essentially you would keep doing what you're doing, and then you would add the Waterkeeper logo to your newsletter, your letterhead, your website to say we're a part of this united front, this global initiative for water quality. Yes?
As a resource, say that we become affiliated, and I take it there are several or hundreds of waterkeepers?
There's 300.
How do we know what everybody's working on, and how do we draw on a resource base? So possibly, some sort of a way that we know that these folks over here in Oregon are working on this particular thing that we can utilize.
That's a great question. So waterkeepers actually stay in touch, and there is a weekly waterkeeper email update that goes around to all the people on the listserv. And so whenever you have a new success story, basically say, we're rolling out the water quality monitoring buoy. That's a really big thing for Maui County, and we want to let all the rest of the waterkeepers know what we're doing. Then we would submit like a paragraph, to the headquarters, and the headquarters would include it on what is next week's listserv. And so you are kept abreast of what is happening with the other waterkeepers, and then opportunities like, regional meetings. We're in the Pacific region, so we would meet with the other ones, and actually, I think that the Pacific region is coming here next time to Hawaii, because they're so excited to have Hawaii Waterkeeper that they're thinking about canceling this year's Pacific meeting and giving everybody an extra year to save to come to Hawaii in
Good
2018.
idea.
Yeah, and so that would be great for us, because, there's people working on dams, in-stream flows, pollution, desalinization plants, all kinds of things.
So you
And
could contact National and
You
ask
could.
them, we're looking to work on this type of thing and blah,
Yes.
blah, blah, who else is doing it?
Exactly. Well, and in addition, there's a regional coordinator for every sector of the United States. And so we're in the Pacific region. Our regional coordinator's name is Leslie Adams. She's amazing. She's got 45 water keepers under her. And so you would just send her an email and say, hey, Leslie, we're thinking about rolling out a water quality buoy. Like, what do you think about that? Do you know anybody else who's working on that? And then she just puts people together.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you for letting me share a little bit. Oh!
I think we'll adjourn the meeting right now. Please help yourselves to anything more if you'd like to eat. And we do need to put all these chairs back. And